You are listening to episode 98 of the Overthinker's Guide to Joy. This is the one where I'm going to take you on a little bit of a personal journey to tell you a very important lesson and tool I used to get out of a bad mood and a bad mindset. Let's dive in. This is a podcast for overthinkers, overdoers, and overachievers who are tired of feeling overanxious and just want to feel better. I'm your host, certified life coach, Jackie Ducranis. Hey there, and welcome back. I'm laughing because I have been trying to record this podcast for days, but something has gotten in my way every single day. It started with I got a head cold and I tried to record and I was so congested I couldn't listen to the sound of my own voice. I think I'm still kind of nasally. Then the head cold went away. That was great. Thank goodness. And then yesterday I went to record and there were landscapers outside. So leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and it just was relentless. And so I couldn't record then. And then today I went to record and there was this weird hissing sound on my microphone. So every time I did a test recording, I kept hearing this like sound in the back and So anyway, I'm happy to be here and finally recording and hoping there's no hissing sound, hoping there's no leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and I'm not super nasally and this episode will work. So, hi. If you're listening to this in real time, it's like early June and it's kind of the end of spring, early summer season, and I am just loving it because the weather has been so nice, not hot, but just pleasant every day with a little bit of cloud cover. And I've been playing a lot of tennis and pickleball. And for those of you who follow my podcast, you know how much I love both sports and how it makes me very happy when I can play. And that's been awesome. But I am also learning to play a new sport, golf. And I never thought I'd be a golfer. I'm still not sure if I'm a golfer because for those of you who already play it, I don't need to tell you what a challenge it is. And it is so humbling to start at the beginning because I am next level terrible. Like barely can hit the ball off the tee and absolutely can't hit it in the air. And when I make contact with the ball at all, it like kind of skids across the grass as if I'm playing croquet as opposed to golf, which isn't supposed to happen unless you putt. But that said, I'm trying. And my husband started playing about 2 years ago. He played when he was younger, but not very seriously. And then he's now taking it very seriously. And he really wants me to play with him, which, to be honest, I don't understand why. Like, we both play tennis, and that's a sport that, yes, he's much, much, much better than I am. But I've been playing it for 20 years. We have a great time playing together, against each other, mixed doubles. It's my favorite thing to play. So I don't understand why he'd want me to play golf with him when I'm years behind him in skill level. And it takes me like a million more strokes to just, finally get the ball in the hole. But nonetheless, he thought it would be fun to play together. And he doesn't seem to be bothered by how long it takes me to finally make a putt. So I love that he's committed to me committing to learn the game. And I love that he's relatively patient with me. And so we went out, I don't know, a week or two ago for my very first round of 9 holes with my very own clubs. And I must admit, hitting with new clubs instead of his old ones from like the Jurassic era made a huge difference. First of all, they were old and the technology has changed drastically over 30 years. And also they were the wrong size for me and just all the things. So yes, even with my new clubs, I average about 10 strokes for what is probably a par 3, par 5. It doesn't really matter. 10 seems to be my number. And that's a terrible score. But he was still really patient. And I kind of had fun. We went out the second time just last week. And he was a little less patient because we went and played with a friend of his who he's been friends with since college and he was visiting. And so we went out and, they're not extraordinary golfers, but they're definitely better than me. And so I think he was a little frustrated that I was taking like a long time. But anyway, his idea of pointers or advice is things like don't hit the ball into the lake or you want to avoid the sand traps. You don't need to know anything about golf to know that. So I give him like kind of a sideways look, like, thank you, Captain Obvious. And then, of course, I proceeded to hit the ball into the lake or the said sand trap. But again, I'm digressing. I swear this episode is not about golf. I'm getting to the point, I promise. But let me tell you what happened on the second outing of our golf game. It was Memorial Day. And like I said, we were meeting up with his old friend. And the setting was just beautiful. It's a public course on the other side of the island, and I had never been there. And it was like right on the ocean. And I mean, it was just a gorgeous day. The ocean was blue. The grass was really bright green. It was like cloud cover and a mild breeze. And it was just, it's like a golfer's dream. And they had this tea time, and I was invited to be the third wheel, if you will. And I could only play the front 9. I couldn't play the whole 18-hole course because I had to get home to meet with clients. And my husband assured me that we would be finished in 2 hours because that's what a normal front 9 or back 9 takes. But there were 3 of us, and because I hit a lot of extra balls, it took about 2.5 hours. So by the time I finished my 9th hole, I was running late. I needed to go to the ladies' room because I had drank like 2 gallons of water. And I had to hightail it back to my car with my clubs and my water bottles and my gear because I was running late for my client. And while I was in the ladies' room, my husband very kindly brought my clubs out of the cart and placed them in front of the ladies' room on the rack. But he forgot everything else in the cart, like my wallet and the covers for my clubs and my water bottle. And so I grabbed my bag full of clubs because I don't know this course and I don't know anybody there. And so I don't know if I can leave my bags just sitting there. So I grab my bag full of clubs and I start running back towards the course to grab my stuff out of the cart before he takes off. And when I finally caught up with him, I snapped and said, "You almost took off with all my stuff. And why didn't you look around? Like, why didn't you see all my stuff in the cart before you brought my bag?" And then he was annoyed with me because I was scolding him. And he's like, "Fine, next time I won't bring your bag over. Sorry for, trying to be helpful." And then I rushed off, and then it kind of left us both feeling a little irritated. And I looked at the clock and I was going to be late for my clients, and I had not eaten lunch and I was starving. And I thought, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll go grab like a quick fish taco from my favorite little hole in the wall Mexican place, and I'll eat in the car and I'll be on time for my clients. And I just won't play golf with my husband again because obviously we can't play together because I'm too slow and he's too defensive and he's snarky and all these things. And so anyway, I'm driving like a mad person. It's about 45 minutes from my house. The little Mexican restaurant is a halfway point. So I stop, I pull in the parking lot, and the restaurant is dark. And I'm like, no, oh, it's Memorial Day. They're closed, of course. And I panicked because my blood sugar was dangerously low. And as I was racing home, I was getting angrier and hungrier. And I felt annoyed with my husband for telling me that we would finish in 2 hours, and it took longer. And then I felt annoyed that he almost left all my stuff in the cart and was about to take off. And I was annoyed that I didn't play well. And I was annoyed that I took up the sport, and we had a little tiff on our second day out together. And then I finally stopped at the grocery store and grabbed a poke bowl, and I ate in the parking lot and texted my client to let them know I was going to run 5 minutes late. And then this amazing thing happened. I felt better. So I then sent a text to my husband for thanking him for including me in his men's game and that I thought the course was beautiful. He sent back a very sweet text saying I played pretty well for my second time and sent a heart emoji. It was kind of our version of an apology. But this whole thing, I know it was a really long-winded story, but this whole thing was like a teaching moment for myself. First of all, it was sort of the obvious, which is I'm not very patient with myself when I do things badly. And I think a lot of my listeners and clients are the same, which is we tend to lean towards that perfectionistic quality. And then when things aren't perfect, we tend to get a little snappy. And look, it's hard to be a beginner at anything. The second thing I learned was that I had not followed my own daily checklist of my home model. And for those of you who have been listening to this podcast for a long time, you know what the home model is. And if you don't, if this is the first time you've ever heard me, HOME is just an acronym that I created for good daily habits to manage stress and anxiety. H is for hydration, and I was well hydrated. O stands for to observe your levels, which just means asking yourself the question, do I need to eat or do I need to rest? And I was not the least bit tired, but I was absolutely starving and therefore a little on edge. The M is for meditation, and I had meditated that morning. And the E stands for exercise. And since I had just played 9 holes of golf and did a lot of walking, I checked that box too. But the point was, I needed to eat. I was not observing my levels. And therefore, I got super cranky and super panicky. And sometimes it's just like the simplest thing. We don't realize it's even happening. And once I got myself like a healthy lunch with some rice and some fish, I was like a new person. But up until I got something to eat, I had gone down a rabbit hole of negative thinking. And I used one of my favorite tools to reframe my mindset, which changed everything. And I call it the STEPS tool. STEPS stands for, it's again an acronym like home. STEPS stands for 5 things. The S is for situation. Everything is a situation, right? Every circumstance or what have you is a situation. And then every situation, we have thoughts about it. And that's what sort of charges the situation positively or negatively. And then the E is for emotions, because when we have thoughts, we have emotions. The P is for process. That's what are the action steps we take when we have certain thoughts or emotions. And the S stands for shift or results or outcome, because there's always a shift depending on how we are thinking, feeling, processing, therefore doing. So here's how that STEPS model worked for this very long-winded story about my second golf game. First of all, every situation is neutral until we have thoughts and emotions around it. So my situation was my husband forgot to gather all my stuff and made me late. Now, here's my thoughts. First, the negative ones, because we always start with the negative ones because those are the automatic thoughts. So my thoughts were, leaving the golf course, he doesn't pay attention to detail. He doesn't value my time. We aren't compatible playing this sport together. He's defensive whenever I point something out. He's angry with me now, and now I'm angry with him, and I don't want to play golf with him anymore. Those were my original negative thoughts. And then the emotions that came up, which is just one-word adjectives, but the emotions that came up with those negative thoughts were frustration, anger, irritation. So from those thoughts and emotions, what were the likely steps I was going to take? Well, in other words, what process am I likely to take? My process was going to be, I just won't play golf with him anymore. And then we'll have an argument about this later when he gets home. And then the shift or outcome was likely to be give up on golf, feel annoyed with my husband, have a fight, ruin a perfectly good holiday. So here's how I use the STEPS model again, but reframing my thinking by choosing different thoughts, positive thoughts, not just the automatic negative ones. So the situation remains the same. My husband forgot to gather my stuff in from the cart before I left. My thoughts could be, he was thoughtful enough to bring my heavy bag over to the ladies' room so that I wouldn't have to carry it and it would save me time. He wants me to learn to play golf so that we can spend more time together. He didn't know that I was cranky because I was hungry. He was doing his best. I could have left my bag where it was and run back to the cart, which would have been easier for me. And even if he had left my stuff in the cart, he would have brought it home later. And it wasn't his fault that my blood sugar was dropping. That's on me. And it wasn't his fault that I slowed down the game because I'm a beginner. He was just trying to be helpful. So those are all my positive thoughts when I had to force my brain to think, what's the other side of this argument? And from that place, thinking those thoughts, then I created a different set of emotions in my body. I was grateful, I was empathetic, I was calmer, and I felt loved. So from that place, what's my likely process? When I'm sitting in gratitude and empathy and calmness and love, my process was to take care of what I needed, which was get some food, take a few deep breaths, send a text thanking him for including me in his golf game, and apologize for being snarky due to hunger and impatience, which I did when he got home. Now, the shift, that is the outcome of that reframe, was that I changed my energy. I created good vibes in my own body. I reconnected with him by sending him the text, thanking him for the day. And then I was excited to go out and play together again. So it's kind of this amazing tool where you just simply feel your feelings, think your thoughts, pay attention to your actions, observe your outcome or shift, and then you reframe those thoughts. And this changed my whole perception, along with, of course, eating lunch, which helped a lot. But it changed my whole perception of the incident so that I could have a different emotion, different process, and a different shift in the whole circumstance or situation. Now, I share this with you because even as a coach who practices and coaches on these tools every single day, I'm still a human being, and it's easy to forget to use our tools. So I share this tool with you because it's so simple and yet so hard sometimes to just remember to practice it. But the hardest part of the tool, because it is very simple, is really just being honest about your thoughts, both the negative ones, but also pushing yourself to find a neutral or positive alternative to those automatic negative thoughts. I think my most powerful thought on my reframe list was, he wants me to learn to play golf so we can spend more time together. Like, that's it. So he doesn't care that I'm a beginner. He doesn't care that I hit extra balls, and he didn't know I was hungry. So by just rethinking it from his perspective, it just gave me kind of a warmer and fuzzier feeling. And it reduced my anger, and it made me feel available to be able to contextualize why I snapped and also create an apology, which he generously accepted. So again, there is no right or wrong thoughts, not in the negative model, not in the positive model. It's about finding a thought that works for you. Because when you find that thought that works for you, then your emotions change. And when your emotions change, your process changes. And when your process changes, it shifts everything. That's what I have for you today. The STEPS model, and to remind you to do your homework, which is just HOME. Follow those basic 4 pillars to check yourself to make sure that you're not feeling exhausted, dehydrated, hungry, or maybe you need some exercise, or maybe you need 5 minutes to meditate and just center yourself. And then when you've done all those things, if there's something bothering you, try using this STEPS tool. It's really powerful and it really works. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me by my email. You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, however you want to contact me. I'd love to help you with this model and help you reframe your thoughts if you're struggling to do it on your own. And with that, I want to wish you a great day and a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. If you would like to learn more about working with me as a coach, you can connect with me through my website at jackiedecrenis.com. That's JACKIEDECRINIS.com.